the Orange Democratic Movement will be coming together to vote for their next leadership. And that upcoming elections has seen quite a number of controversial issues coming up in as far as the exercise and preparation for the elections has been conducted. There are those who've intended to vie, decided not to at some point. Those who'd been thought they would vie, decided they would not after all. There are those who've criticized the old guard for trying to manipulate or interfering with who vies for what position. But one of those positions that has created quite some heated debate is that of the Secretary General. There are those who have said that it should be a preserve for politicians from Luo Nyanza. Others have said no, it should be open, and so that the party can have the face of the nation. But joining me in studio this morning is Josphat Nanok, who's the governor from Turkana, or Turkana governor, and also Paul Otuoma MP Funyula constituency. They're both seeking the chairmanship. They want to be at the head of the Orange Democratic Movement. We'll be talking to them more about the affairs of the Orange. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And good morning to you both.
Thank you.
So the elections are coming up. Let's begin with your decision, Dr. to vie for the chairmanship of this particular party. What informed that decision?
Thank you, Sophie. I myself have been a member of ODM for quite some time now. And even before that, I was part of that group of people who came up, you know, over the time.
Yes.
We gravitated from various reform movements to finally form a party called the Orange Democratic Movement Party. And you know very well that we have been participating in the elections, in the last two presidential elections as Orange Democratic Party. Unfortunately, we have not been able to have that mandate to implement our manifesto. And you know, our manifesto is very clearly founded on Maisha Bora for all Kenyans. That is, you know, quality life for all Kenyans to feel like Kenyans.
Right.
Now, having gone through that, this opportunity has come up that we are holding our national elections because we had already done the grassroots elections before the previous elections. And we tend to think that we have made a lot of strides for those who have been in the party leadership. But we also know that we have had a lot of challenges. And we are going to have more challenges in future. And I myself think that with the experience that I now have and the vision that I have for the party, given opportunity to lead it as its chairman, I think I'm going to be part of a formidable team that is going to prepare this party for a better future. And that is, we need the mandate to implement our manifesto and all these things that we have been fighting for, devolution, you know, equality for all Kenyans. You have seen, like even yesterday, the president launched something about the social safety program. All these were ideas that the ODM party had been pushing all along. Infrastructure improvement, you know, all Kenyans feeling like they are Kenyans. No Kenyans should be isolated on the basis of gender, you know, color or tribe. We don't want to see a situation whereby, you know, some Kenyans can say that the whole government resources belong to one or two communities at the exclusion of other Kenyans.
Yes.
So to be able to do that, we need leadership that can bring together the Orange fraternity to be able to realize that goal.
And you believe you're the man for the job? I
believe I'm the man for the job.
And you also believe you're the man for the job. What makes you that man?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Orange Democratic Party has been in existence for about 8 years now.
Yes.
And I've been a member coming from Turkana. And to dispel the fact that ODM is not a national party, I've been elected twice. Previously as a member of parliament for Turkana South, and now as the governor for Turkana County on an ODM platform. So basically that gives it room to indicate that it's a national party.
Yes.
Second is that coming from a minority community that has not had a significant position in a major political party like ODM, because ODM is not a small party.
Yes.
A party with the largest elective leaders so far in the country now is a major party. a party with the largest number of governors, single largest number of governors, single largest number of senators, single largest number of members of county assembly and members of parliament. It's not a small party and has roots and structures all across the country. Of course, we've been in election. We've gone through certain challenges, particularly the last election, the last two elections, where we were unable to get what we intended to get, the presidency, or the opportunity to govern this country.
Right.
And now we have that opportunity to relook at the leadership of the party in a way that we provide, because if everything falls on leadership, to relook at the leadership of the party, and in a way that it can be able to give a much better way of dealing with the challenges that we've experienced.
So what is it you
for instance,
bring? Yes.
We've had challenges with the nominations going into elections.
Right.
And I think, I believe that coming from an area that is a minority community area, that this is something that I can be able to bring into the party leadership, because the chairman's position is all about trying to mediate the different internal interests within the party, and be able to rally it around coming up with policy options for governance.
Right. Okay, so that is what you say you'll bring to the table. Let's first talk about the this party election slated for later on in the month. The question we're asking our viewers, and just to remind them as they watch, we'll have our phone lines on your screen. You can call in and be part of this discussion. But we're asking about whether there is democracy and whether that is being seen and whether it is there in as far as going and heading to these particular elections. We've seen quite a number of people pull out. Initially, they had made the intent clear they wanted to be vying for various positions. And there's been the whole question of what positions, you know, the Secretary General position has especially attracted a lot of heat and debate, you know, as far as where the candidate should come from. Watching what has been unfolding and what has been making news in as far as this election is concerned, what's your take?
My take, first of all, let me dispel the rumors that anybody has been prevailed upon not to seek any position that you want.
But we had Dalmas Otieno come out and say he was.
I'm going to say something.
Right.
The reason I'm saying that is that there is a process, and I think my colleague explained. This thing is put out, a decision is put out by NEC. It is advertised. People collect forms. You fill up the forms. You make your returns. The electoral board is yet even to publish the names of those applicants who did this, because they're supposed to publish them in the dailies so that people can see who are the applicants, and then after that, after the vetting, they'll say these are the successful applicants. So before we have even reached that stage, how do you pull out? Who has told you to pull out? Who has vetted you in the first place? Who has received your form?
They say they are being told by the old guard, those people who have been in the leadership longer in the Orange Democratic Movement, and now feel, especially for the Secretary General position, the leadership should not be an exclusive, you know, for the people from, politicians from Luo Nyanza.
I equally have said that no position should be exclusive for any region.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is not just anybody who has, I mean, one particular person who has said that. All of us agreeing that this party is a national party.
But isn't it against democracy to then tell the politicians from Luo Nyanza not to vie for that position, even if you feel it should not be a preserve?
I don't think anybody has been told, because if you remember, it is some of these politicians who said that this is ours, this belongs to us. And other Kenyans said, we are part and parcel of this party. How do you come and tell us that this is yours? What do you mean? Like he has just said, he's from Turkana. He's equally a founder member of this party. I'm a founder member of ODM. I'm number 32, I think, in terms of the membership of ODM, you know, first members that came in, the first 100 members. So how do you come in and start telling me that this is a preserve of a particular region? And when you say it's a preserve, you are saying it should be mine. You are not saying it's a preserve because we believe, you know, blah, 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 blah. You are just saying it is me. So you are using a collective tribal, you know, angling, while in real sense you're trying to say this should be preserved for me. And it is very unfortunate when you start giving examples that, oh, you remember Shikuku took off with the party, or you remember this did with that. We are no longer under the Societies Act. We have bring now order through the Political Parties Act. And we are saying now parties are recognized in the Constitution. They are being funded by the public. And the public will expect certain decorum and minimum kind of operations from those parties. And you have a right. Now there's a law. You have a right as a party member to demand those rights. Otherwise, how do you fund an institution with public funds and not expect certain accountability from that? The Constitution also says you are not going to form any party based on tribe or regions. That's why we have said even to be a presidential, to win a presidential race, you must at least have a minimum.
50% plus.
Yes, and a minimum of at least 24 counties where you get more than 25%.
Okay.
So it is the problem is trying to move from the old order to the new order. And there are people who still live in the old order. And those are the people who are expressing themselves that they have been prevailed upon. Where have you been prevailed upon when you have not even made an application? Because if you're somebody just to be prevailed upon, how are you going to provide leadership in the party? If you can just be prevailed upon in an ad hoc manner to say that, you know, you drop this, how are you going to be able even to represent the party in the first place? So that I tend to think is just individuals who are mishandling themselves or who expected some advantages from the old order, which is no longer there. Because now we are going to demand accountability, and the Constitution is there, which has recognized the parties.
All right, let me bring in Mheshimiwa Nanok, because we've seen those who'd expressed interest, they were going to vie, and then all of a sudden again turn around, they're not vying, and that has raised eyebrows and questions in as far as why can't everybody just be let make their interest known, vie, and if they're defeated, they're defeated. But when they're coming out and some are talking about being prevailed upon, then that brings into question who is this person behind there manipulating the goings on in ODM.
Yeah, let me give you a perspective that answers the query you've just raised. ODM has lost 2 subsequent general elections.
Right.
A serious political party will always want to win in an election and win the presidency and have the opportunity to govern.
Right.
We have realized that we still offer that option for governance. So we have to relook back again and see the mistakes that we as a party have made. And the reason why we have to portray a national outlook is so that the party membership increases. Critical areas that were party members before can rethink about rejoining back the party and including consolidating. So what is happening now, particularly with the recent candidatures of some candidates pulling out and others proceeding, and others thinking they have been asked to pull out.
Right.
It's a normal political process where a candidate feels that they are not able to run the race until the end and they have to fall out. But of course the process has to be continuing because our eye is on 2017 and future elections. And if our eye is in 2017 and future elections, then we have to be focused and we let the party delegates and we let the party support base be able to elect a leadership that is going to provide that leadership that will offer the policy alternative for governance.
The party leader, who of course has a lot of influence, has been accused of meddling in this particular process, that he's the one, if he gives that endorsement, then you're sure you'll go all the way, and that for some they've just been asked by him not to. Is he meddling? Do you think he is?
ODM has a membership that includes young and old, women and men. And I believe all of them have a role to play in this party going forward.
Right.
And I think it is critical as we move forward that all this membership works together. Of course, it is critical to have transitions in leadership. But of course, without forgetting the experiences, both the leadership experiences.
So is he meddling or not?
I don't think he's meddling. He has come out very clearly. I'm a member of the outgoing National Executive Committee.
Right.
And he has come out very strongly to say that he is going to leave it to the party delegates to make a decision on who the leadership they will want to be. For instance, I come from Turkana. I've never been told to step down from a minority community. I am not coming with numbers to the table. I am coming with ideas, and I am coming with an offer that what I bring to the chairmanship will be something that will propel ODM to the next level.
Mheshimiwa, we have Caleb Charuo tweeting us and saying, let the leader Raila give people freedom to lead the party the way they feel right, not much directives. Because that is the feeling majority of the people are getting, that there is interference.
I think that is a perception that has been created.
Right.
But we are also not operating in a vacuum.
Okay.
You must remember that Honorable Raila is a charismatic leader of ODM. And definitely, as my colleague has put it, there will be politicians who will be angling to tend to think that, you know, you need certain favors. But sometimes when those favors are not forthcoming, because you are used to certain way of doing things, you start creating a situation whereby you either say the process is not going to be fair, or you start saying you have been prevailed upon. But I tend to believe that if you really have a conviction and you have a vision for the party, you will put in your candidacy, and we all agree that once the candidacy has come in, people are going to be voted in. We also look at a situation whereby we also build consensus.
Right.
Yeah, it's part of the process which is allowed. Like he is saying, if he's coming from Turkana, and you are going to say that, you know, regions are going to caucus and create tyranny of numbers, that's not what we are looking at. Because even within the same constitution of ODM, it says it must be national distribution. It must show the face of Kenya. So we cannot just come up with a certain region ganging up and saying, no, that because we have the numbers of delegates, we are going to vote in only ourselves. You can't do that. Even it will be going against the constitution and even the party's constitution. So we have to come in and say, yes, we are voting democratically. But in the voting democratically, it is also within our constitutional right to make sure that all these seats reflect the diversity and the face of Kenya. Like now there's the 1/3 gender rule. Are you going to say that people will just come in and vote in men only or women only? They must observe and say, how do we achieve, even through these free and fair voting systems, how do we still achieve the 1/3 threshold that is put there by the constitution? So that's part of the consensus building. That's part of trying to distribute all these seats, because I don't believe you can say that there's any one or particular individual who has a monopoly of all these ideas on how to do the party. We are trying to say we are building a team that is going to help us. It would be very unfortunate even for me to be chairman of an institution whereby people feel disaggrieved, or whereby we cannot shake hands with the winners and losers and say you still have got something to contribute. My colleague here is a governor of Turkana, a very important position for the party. So how do I say today that if I'm given the mandate by the people of ODM, that we will not shake hands with him and work together? If equally he gets that mandate, it will be my responsibility to shake hands with him and say, my brother, we'll work together. After all, we are friends, you know, and we are one family. So we don't want to create a situation whereby this now is something to divide the party. We are doing elections to strengthen the party and prepare for 2017. And
I want us to talk more about strengthening the party and the challenges the party has been facing shortly. But just remind viewers, our question of the day, engage with us. We're asking you, do you think democracy is being exercised in the Orange Democratic Movement? This, of course, ahead of the polls slated for later on this month. Do you think that democracy is being exercised in ODM ahead of the polls? Share with us your views. You can text 22155 or tweet me at Sophia Wanuna. And of course, our phone numbers are also scrolling on your screen. Do call in if you have a question for my guest this morning, or a comment to be part of our discussion. We are good to pick your calls and talk to you this morning. So go ahead and give us a call. In terms of getting ODM ready for the 2017 elections, let's talk and get into the ODM party in itself and some of the challenges we've seen. You mentioned the nomination process. I was in Kisumu. We were covering the nominations ahead of last year's elections. And things didn't go very well, and we had very many people even after who'd won the nomination process had been given that certificate, not the names that were presented in the ballot paper. So very many disgruntled people, and ODM had quite a number of those cases. So as chairman, why is it we've had, as a person seeking to get the chairmanship, why is it we've had such a big problem in terms of that process, and what do you plan to do to make sure that, you know, it's a fair and clean, open
So if you remember, you also interviewed me, I think,
yes,
in KTN at that time in Kisumu.
Yes, we did.
Because I had to come there, although I was also vying, but I had to come there because of the coverage that was being received in that region to try and find out what was really happening. And it's true, we had a lot of challenges. And you remember nearly all parties were having challenges. And one of the things that has happened in this country, as we move towards democratization, you must realize that we were running parties that are not even properly funded. To carry out a national-wide nomination process is almost like a mini election itself.
Right.
Because if you look at the number of people who are participating in those election process, without properly structuring these parties and making them institutions, they'll face those challenges because the logistics sometimes are not there enough to be able to carry out that process. So it is the institutions themselves that at that particular time are just evolving. And if, as we envisaged when we were doing the Political Parties Act, to say, if we are going to promote democracy and promote political party democracy as it is put in the Constitution, we must find a mechanism to fund these parties so that they are able to transform themselves into institutions that can serve their members and contribute positively towards the democratization process in Kenya. And that's why I'm happy that you are seeing today. It is not enough, but it is at least a move in the right direction.
So are you saying funds is what is causing this problem?
It's a logistic nightmare. Can you imagine trying to hold? It's like a primary on its own. How much do we give IBC to just conduct elections?
But you see, the biggest issue, Mheshimiwa, was not even in as far as the logistics. It was people who had won fair and square. The nomination process did not end up in the ballot paper in the election.
I agree with you that you must look at, when you are in a political competition, various politicians devise various ways. So it is up to the institution to be able to respond to those challenges. You would find, like, you know, you have to fly ballot boxes to Turkana. This is ODM as a party where members are just contributing voluntarily. We are looking for fundraising here and there. You have to fly to Homa Bay. You have to take ballot boxes to Garissa. You need people to give you returns. You are trying to use the internal party resources that sometimes are not properly or adequately, you know, funded to do that. And ODM is not a normal, you know, small ordinary party or a regional party. You are looking at national-wide logistics. Now, without a proper institution with capacity to handle that, it's a nightmare. When I was Minister for Sports the other day, I tried to do these football elections, and you could see the nightmare that I was facing. I had to go to private sector to look for funds to do that. I had to employ IBC to help us do that. And this is now what I'm saying, that as we take over this leadership, we have seen those challenges, and it is up to us that we are starting this early to prepare. And I can assure you that will be a thing of the past. And
Nanok, do you agree that will be a thing of the past? And if you were to be elected chairman, what is it you would do to ensure that all those who come forward and say they want to vie for a particular position in the nomination process, it's fair and open?
Yeah, well, agreeing with my colleague and friend, Honorable Otuoma, as I said earlier, ODM is 80 years old. And of course, in our last two general elections, we faced challenges. And I think it's critical for the party now, for the party structures and leadership to relook and introspect into those challenges and see how best we can be able to get solutions to them. And one of the ways that the party wants to go about this is the leadership. Is a new phase of leadership that will offer solutions to the critical issues that the party itself has been facing. And I believe that if the party delegates come the 28th of this month, once they meet, they will be selecting amongst ourselves those who have shown their candidature to select to elect those they believe that together with them they can be able to take this party forward and make it a more competitive party for future elections. And critical is providing an option for the voting Kenyans, a policy option, because an opposition party or coalition should always have an alternative policy option for any governance issue. And I think this is a critical issue which ODM, as a party, we will want to prepare ourselves. One, by changing and making sure that we have the right leadership that has the mandate of the party members.
How do you ensure the nomination process is good?
Pardon?
How do you ensure the nomination process, before we leave that, how do you ensure the nomination process ahead, because we'll be coming to 2017, there will be a nomination process. How do you ensure, and how will you, if elected chairman, do you ensure that that is free and fair?
Of course, we will do this by putting in place the right party organs. And as you know, the ODM party elections are always conducted through the National Election Board. I think it's through the key party organs, the National Executive Committee, making sure that the people nominated to serve on those positions are people who have the democratic ideals and fairness in the process.
All right,
and I think these are the issues that and the challenges we've faced previously.
All right, let's talk to Andrew, who's calling us from Kangemi. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning, Sophia. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much for calling. You have a question or a comment?
Yes, I have a comment.
Go ahead.
And I'm quite concerned. When I listen to the way people are generally discussing the issues to do with the ODM elections and the media particularly, because the media, I know it sounds more interesting when a man bites the dog and not when the dog bites the man. But I have a feeling that the media is trying to really blow this sort of proportion to show that ODM has never held democratic elections, because they keep on bombarding one point every now and again. And I feel so bad when the Right Honorable Raila Odinga's name keeps on being dragged into every particular election of ODM, be it nomination, be it the normal party elections. I really feel bad.
But he is the party leader, Andrew. He is the party leader, so it's not about his name being dragged into the conversation. He is part of the conversation.
I agree with you, Sophia. He is the party leader, and as you've said earlier, he really holds a lot of influence. But can't we really be fair here? Because we keep on saying that, we really doubt whether ODM elections are going to be fair. Is the party leader going to have influence on who is picked or who is elected at the end of the day? And there is something here that I really want us to pay attention to. And this is the fact that when Raila if at all he was to let the Luo Nyanza politicians all flock the position of Secretary General and all this, it would have been that, see, the party leader is busy watching when people from his community are deciding to take over the entire leadership of the party.
All right.
Now,
yes,
that apparently there are claims that he says that we cannot all swarm the party and take over the party as if it's a tribal organization. It is said that he is supporting the candidature of Dr. Agnes Zani,
yes,
who is from the coast, which nobody is sure of. But if that were to be the truth,
right,
I would tell you that myself, Andrew Onyango, I'd be very happy, because I do not want ODM to be seen as a tribal party.
All right, thank you.
I don't want that at all.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yes, so I think there needs to be some fairness here, Sophia.
All right. But also, of course, I'll correct you on saying it's not the media that is creating the picture. You see, when members of the party criticize and allege that there's meddling happening, we only report and tell you what is being said. So it is the members that are raising the issues. But we thank you.
Dalmas is known, Sophia. Dalmas is known all along.
Right.
He's never been firm. He's never been stable. And I can tell you, and you can take this to the bank, I don't come from Rongo where he comes from, but trust me, he's going to have it rough in the next general election.
All right.
He's going to go nowhere.
Andrew, we thank you for calling in and sharing your views with us this morning. Andrew, of course, calling us from Kangemi and talking to us about his concern is that the former Prime Minister's name is dragged on all the time in this conversation. But of course, he is the party leader, so he's part of, if not at the center. But touching on that before we move on, he has time and again, and even recently, talked about the fact that, CORD did not lose the election. What are your thoughts in that narrative that we keep hearing over and over again, that it was stolen, the military was dragged into it the other time, in as far as ensuring that as a country, because the analysts have argued that, the more you keep talking about this, we don't move forward. But also those in support of what he says claim that we must remind Kenyans that at the end of the day, there was something wrong that was done at some point. So what are your thoughts as people vying and seeking the chairmanship of the ODM in as far as what the party leader has said for the last elections?
First of all, I have to tell you that even our democratic process in Kenya has had a lot of challenges, and you have seen them. Even all the way to the Supreme Court, it has been very clear that some of the issues that we have raised as politicians in this country and as Kenyans, and it is our legitimate right to do so, has shown that our democratic process has also had a lot of challenges. You remember we wanted to do electronic voting, it collapsed. You remember that when we tried to raise issues, even in Bomas, they were not taken in good faith. And, things just went on as if we are not raising issues. And when that is happening to a party that is having the highest representation of people of Kenya, and the Constitution says that, representation is sovereign through the people of Kenya. When we raise those challenges, don't just take them, as something that we are making noise about. The most important thing is to reflect. How do we make sure that our elections, our democratic process is as free, as fair as possible, and legitimately accepted by all participants? That is how we build strong democratic institutions.
So do you support those claims that he
the claims about the military issue, it is very clear that already he had issued a statement that if you don't understand idioms and parables, how they are used, and when you translate your mother tongue directly into English, sometimes it achieves a completely different meaning.
So you believe CORD won the last election?
I tend to believe CORD won the elections.
Okay.
Yes. And that's why even the court, just look at the Supreme Court ruling. Some of the evidence was not accepted. And by not accepting that evidence, you leave a lot of doubt. But
of course, we know it was not accepted because of the technical issues.
Yeah, those are technical issues, yes.
It was out of time in as far as the deadlines that it was supposed to be submitted by. It was submitted after the constitutional set timeline.
That's now what I'm saying. When you use a technical hitch,
it's not a technical hitch, it's a constitutional timeline.
Yeah, but it was a technical issue because you must remember, as we were being asked, that we should have collected that evidence ourselves. We should be having something to compare.
Right.
Yet, the only institution that we had given resources, public resources, that could avail that information, the IBC, was not availing it.
Okay.
Now, how would you expect a party like us, a party that is just being funded privately, to be able to collect all that information on time? What IBC should have said, this is the information, we have published it for the public to look at it and consume, because this is supposed to be public information.
Before we come to Mheshimiwa Nanok, let's speak to Odongi, who's calling us this morning. Good morning, Odongi. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning, madam.
Thank you for calling. Share with us your question or comment, please.
Morning, madam. Hello. Yes, madam.
Yes, please reduce the volume on your television because that is interfering with us hearing you. Please reduce the volume, then go ahead with your question
I have
or
a
comment.
comment.
All right, because I could actually hear myself on the phone, but we'll try you again, Odongi. When you call, kindly have the volume turned down on your television so we can be able to communicate. But we're glad you're watching and keep those calls coming. Mwashimiwa, in as far as ODM being part of CORD, a significant part of CORD, and the role that ODM has played and in the minority in its role to keep the government in check thus far, a year after the elections. What is your take in as far as how you've performed as ODM?
Just before I come to that, I want to chip into what my colleague has just said.
Yes.
Normally leaders get blamed for any single thing that you might not even have been involved in.
Right.
For instance, I'm a governor, but anything that happens within Turkana County, the blame comes on to me. So Raila Odinga, as a leader of the party leader of ODM, and as a leader of the coalition CORD, will tend to be blamed even for things that are not associated with him.
What has he been blamed for?
Of course, the party.
What has he been blamed for instance, that you don't think he should?
For these issues of interfering now with the nomination process and telling some candidates sit and some candidates.
But it's the candidates who say that he's the one.
But it's not the true position. That's why I'm telling you, we tend to be blamed even for things you are not even part of.
Okay.
It is critical for the party as it moves forward to relook both at internal and external factors that made it not get what it intended to get. And here we're talking about the last general election. And of course, as my colleague has raised, some of those internal factors are things that are already out in the public domain, and probably a lot more issues are going to come out, and then we will be rethinking about this together with other political parties, because these are issues we can't address as ODM alone. We have to address it with the Kenyan citizenry. We have to address it with the rest of the political leadership and across political parties, so that we get a much better systems in place and fair play that will be satisfactory to all the competitors in future.
Governor, I'll allow you to continue in a short while, but I understand we have Odongi back. Odongi, good morning.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, morning.
Yes, I hear you now. Go ahead with your question or comment.
I have a question to the ODM members, Madam. People are start complaining about this coming election, about the secretariats, those who are going to have the election. Why don't the election be held with another body apart from the members from the ODM, those who are the secretariat?
Okay, so you're suggesting that an independent body comes?
Independent body is like organization like Africa, those people, like, because they have no faith in the people going to conduct the election. I read nothing yesterday over the paper.
All right, thank you. Thank you for calling in, talking about the people who will be conducting these elections, and we'll talk about the list that we've had some, reject and say that should not happen. He's proposing an independent body should do that. But first, before we get to that, on the question of the role you've played, because the government has faced a number of challenges in the first year, which is about to get to 1 year. In the next month or so, and the question of the role of the minority in keeping the government in check has come to fore, and ODM is a key part of that group, including Wiper and the other parties. So the question is, what do you feel as ODM your role has been, and has it been seen by Mwananchi in as far as keeping the government in check?
I can tell you so far, the last 8-9 months, we've played that role very proactively, but we need to play it much more.
How have you played it proactively? What have you done?
I think our elected representatives plus the party leadership has been core in commenting on critical policy issues that the government of the day has been pronouncing and has been implementing.
But is that enough, Governor, commenting? Because people need actions, not words. Because that is the concern. Yes, we hear press conferences, but Kenyans are tired of press conferences coming and saying we're against, we reject, we don't support. But what about being part of a solution, an ideology that gets things done, Mr.
But of course,
MP?
You know, if you are an alternative government, and of course ODM plays that role, is then when you are commenting on policy issues, you should give an alternative that can be bought and saying, if it was us, we would have done it this way and this way. And the reason why some of us want to join the party is to strengthen that structure so that whenever we are offering those policy options, we are giving it to its conclusive end and making sure that at any given time that the party is ready to offer an alternative solution to some of the
So what you expect from ODM is to hear them commenting on issues and offer alternatives but no actionables?
No, I think in my view I will differ a little bit with my colleague on that one because if you look at the institutions, the way the governance structures in this country, they have changed. You know, we moved away from a parliamentary kind of system to a presidential system.
Right.
And everybody is now trying to adjust. If you look at it currently, the Jubilee coalition in parliament, you know, they have cobbled together quite a number of small parties and all that to try and have a majority also within parliament. But that does not stop the effective role of ODM and its coalition under CORD to offer that effective oversight over the government. But as we do this, you must realize, Sophie, that we are transiting from one political order to another one. And sometimes people don't know how to behave. Because even in parliament...
But 1 year on, we can't still be
let me put it to you. It is all again comes down to leadership. If you look at it, that within our own coalitions, you know, when we come together, you will find now like the CORD coalition, we needed really to re-harmonize and re-energize our coalitions so that through that ideological harmonization, we can be able to effectively oversight government. And this we have to do by trying also to appeal to other members of parliament to build up that critical mass so that the Jubilee members of parliament don't just become rubber stamps, or the so-called, some of them you hear them coming to parliament and they just ask, where's the tyranny of numbers?
So you feel you failed in the past couple of years?
We feel we need to do more than what we have done.
Okay.
Yeah, we may not have failed, but we have not really strategized to effectively oversight this government. And this we need now to do more effectively if Kenyans are going to get value for their taxes.
Let's speak to Kennedy then and I'll allow you to. Kennedy is calling us from Athi River. Kennedy, good morning.
Morning, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you for calling. Your question or comment, please.
My comments are just to congratulate Honorable Otuoma and Nanok and just tell them that if indeed whatever they are telling Kenyans is true, then they are up to the task of serving ODM. Secondly, I want to just make a comment and say this. There are those who have believed that a section of the people from maybe a given area in Nyanza, if they were standing as ODM, then ODM will go ahead. But I want to congratulate the discussion that is going on by saying that ODM is a political party which is endeavored and across the Kenyan population. So even those who are saying that they have been moved out and been asked out, in my own understanding is that is just a political game for their own survival. Otherwise, cheers to Otuoma and cheers to Nanok.
Thank you, Kennedy. Thank you for calling in and allow you to, you wanted to say
Thank you, Sophie. Yes. I'm actually saying that we are not differing with my colleague Honorable Otuoma. I think our line of thinking is almost the same. You know, I speak from the perspective of also being a governor, part of governance at the lower level, the county. And so far, 17 out of the 47 counties are being governed by ODM elected governors. So we have a certain role we are also playing proactively. But I'm saying that at the national, yes, the level, we've, yes, apart from just oversighting and pointing, there's a problem here, but I think proactively giving the policy option to the Kenyan citizenry that if it was us, we would have done it better and
but
this
you
way.
see, that takes us to a place of games of taking us back to, oh, it's not us, so if it was us, we would have done better. But I think what he's saying that you have not done all you could have. You've not performed at your best.
No, but Sophie, that is that's how politics is. Politics is all about pointing out.
But when the people elect you, they are not electing you to, you know, be substandard. They want to be served as, you know, their leadership. The cost of living is spiraling every other day. Turkana in your county, somebody is asking actually here, Tusker Mall says Josphat Nanok is on Morning Express talking about ODM elections while his constituents are dying of hunger in Turkana. So you see, at the end of the day, for Mwananchi, it's back to the real issue of the day. What do you tell such a person? What would be your response to that before you comment?
Okay.
No, go ahead.
No, I think the person is right saying that, because these are the challenges as a governor that we've been going through. But of course, we are doing our best to make sure that the hunger situation is being dealt with. And of course, and that's why criticism from the opposite side is so good, because it keeps us on
How are you doing that? Because
it keeps
right
us
now,
on,
Mr. Governor, right now the country is watching. And the saddest part and thing about this whole situation in Turkana is that we keep seeing it year in, year out. It wasn't, you know, an emergency. It wasn't something that happened that nobody expected. We knew, the leadership, you knew, everybody knew it was going to happen. So you as the governor, elected so that you can, you know, take care of the needs closer to the people. Because somebody can say, yeah, the national government has too many issues in dealing with security, everything. You're there with the people. So it's important for people to understand as we move on with this discussion what really you're doing for your people in Turkana.
Of course, we are also dealing with so many issues, but I'm telling you that it is the cycle of drought has been 5 years before. Now it is about 3 years. It's only 3 years ago when the Kenya for Kenyans program ended, and now we are in another new cycle. And of course, we knew about this earlier, but we may, as a government, both levels of government may not have done adequate enough to deal with the situation. But I think it's out of this realization that we think that it is critical for us to relook again and to see how best we can be able to best prepare and deal with the particular situation.
So as we speak, there are those who are eating dogs. Let me just finish on this. Mheshimiwa, I'll come to you. We've seen those stories, mothers, children. So as now the situation and the hunger drought continues to bite, what are you doing now?
You see, the drought is biting.
Yes.
But I want to tell you that the story about eating dogs has actually been taken to the extreme end.
Okay.
And the truth about it is not there. And basically, we know the situation has been very severe.
So you're saying no one has eaten a dog to cope, because we've seen some arrested?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if I chip in, Sophie, we are all leaders in this country.
Yes.
And you have heard us saying that we need to really empower the county governments to execute their mandate according to the Constitution. And unless we are able to midwife the county governments properly, we'll just be playing blame game with the governors. Because once the governor comes in place, there was a mechanism whereby we were not only just to transfer functions, but also to transfer resources to the county governments to be able to operationalize them. Now, you cannot expect somebody to start executing his functions as given under the Constitution when we have not operationalized the counties. Because even today, I've been on record arguing, we don't need to devolve payrolls. What we need to devolve is development funds to enable governors and hold them to account to say, we have given you these funds. How have you used them? But you see, currently we are just devolving the current budgets and start blaming governors that, you know, you are spending money.
So you're saying the national government is to blame,
this
and
Jubilee
that the
government is paying lip services to devolution.
But
that's where the problem
are you
is.
saying then the counties are dependent and will sit back and wait for national government to deliver everything, and theirs is just to execute? Is there no role for them to come up with those ideas?
The main tax collector is the central government. Where do you expect the governor to get money from?
Have you not received any money from the national government?
The national government, but the resources that are being put down into the counties, we read them in the papers every day that this amount has now been pushed, this amount has been pushed. But if you look at it, this 15% that we said should go to the counties, a lot of it has just been recurrent budgets. From our understanding, if you look at the budgets, because the budgets are made in parliament, but we look at it and say, if we are going to help the county governments, and you remember we were on record as CORD and as ODM, saying that we would even like to devolve more resources to the counties, so that then the county governors can be held to account. But today I can tell you a lot of it is blame game. You have seen even through their forums, there being clashes between Isaac Ruto, their chairman, what he has been trying to express that, you know, we are not really getting the support that we require. Yet he's a Jubilee governor. But because this is not about Jubilee or ODM or CORD, this should be something to say this is what Kenyans wanted. How well are we implementing it? So it is up to our duty. That's why I was saying that we, even as parliamentarians, and even when I talk of parliament, I mean both the Senate and the National Assembly. We need to refocus on the real issues. Today now, when you hear that a governor is being impeached, you know, everybody is rushing in to say we are forming committees, we are forming this. I would like to see even the Senate forming committees to see how well the government is implementing. I want
to bring this conversation back because our time is running out. I want to bring it back to ODM as you make your
just one single comment.
Because he's arguing for you, Mheshimiwa, and saying that it's money that's not getting to you. That's why
now that I'm a governor here,
that was the ODM
let me make one critical comment.
Very briefly.
County governments were never there before. Right. They're just a creation of the new constitution. And so we found a system that had no structures. And we had to build these structures, and we are still building those structures now. And to be fully blamed for a function that has been devolved, which you are fighting to try and strengthen and to be able to deliver service, I think is a very wrong beginning. Because in certain areas that are like marginal areas, where there has been understaffing for 50 years, under-resourcing for 50 years, that it's a very, very big challenge when you have a government organ that has been created and is being told deliver service, and you expect it on day one to begin to do A, B, C, and D.
You're attributing the challenge that people of Turkana are facing now with the drought to the challenges you as the leadership are facing in terms of devolution, that because it's not been effectively funded as you claim, or the systems are not in place, hence the people of Turkana are dying because those systems are not in place. There is nothing more you can do.
No, I'm attributing to several factors that includes the marginalization of the AZ area, including even on governance. It is your
role to ensure that marginalization is no longer an issue.
But how long have we been in existence? Only 8.5 months now.
But you knew at the beginning this was going to come. The drought farming is an issue that happens every year.
But you see, we are setting up.
Okay.
We are setting up and watch us.
How long will you take to set up? It's very important.
Look at it this way.
Yeah.
Watch us in the next couple of years, because these are areas that we are going to refocus.
Yeah.
And now
for somebody who doesn't have food right now in front of them and doesn't know what they'll eat next and suffering in Turkana, hearing you say watch us for the next couple of years really is discouraging.
Not really discouraging, Sophie.
But our time is running up. We must move
Sophie,
very quickly.
Before you can conclude that and you give a very bad impression to Kenyans.
I'm just saying it's discouraging if you say
we are focusing on the emergency,
yes.
But we don't want to lose sight of the medium long-term solution to this critical problem.
Correct.
That's why our investments into food security, into water, into health are continuing, and we want to aggressively increase our resources. Right now, for the county government of Turkana, of 8 billion shillings we've budgeted, 60%, at least more than half of the 60%, which is going to development assistance, is focusing on those critical areas. And we've even been holding discussions with partners. And the last discussion with the United Nations yesterday, where we are agreeing on a program of action on how we can be able to move forward as a team to try and seek solutions to some of the challenges this critical area has been experiencing.
And you're right to say that, as you said, your focus also is on long term, which is very important, so that we don't
want to lose focus of that.
All right. Gentlemen, very key and important, as this is really supposed to be about ODM, but that came up because also a very important issue currently in the country that we had to talk about. But in terms of the team, we had our last caller, Kennedy, talking about those that are conducting the ODM elections, and whether they're the right people, whether there should be an independent body coming in to conduct those elections. Your views on that. Also, as you touch on the poll that ranked TNA as the most popular party, and what you plan to do to perhaps get your star shining as well.
On the first one, I have to tell you that as a party, I told you we have had challenges, but we are also doing this election to strengthen ourselves and to prepare for 2017. And so far, the team that has been put in place, we as leaders of ODM, we have to work within the framework that we have.
Right.
And we are trying to say, let's try to make the best out of it. If you feel you have got any idea or anything that you can contribute to make this team deliver on these elections, then as a leader of ODM who is an aspirant, I think you are free to do so, rather than, you know, just critique the team without offering solutions.
Right.
Because we are coming in to offer solutions, not just to criticize. We are saying we have learned from our past weaknesses, but we must also build on our past strengths. We have not just had weaknesses alone. So I tend, in my view, to believe that this is a team, if it means well for ODM, is a team we should support, and I believe they mean well for ODM, and offer suggestions and solutions on how best we can conduct these elections, rather than casting aspersions on that team. Because those are very well-known Kenyans, they are reasonable Kenyans. Talk to them. And I tend to think we want to...
On TNA being the most popular?
On TNA being the most popular, I would be very surprised. They promised jobs. Have they given youths jobs? They promised security. Do we have security?
But there's a poll
They
that says they're
promised
the most
food.
popular.
Kenyans are dying of food. So how does such a party become popular? Yet it's the leading. It's now currently the one forming the government. And they have not delivered on any of the promises that they made to Kenyans. How does that make them popular? I would really doubt that. I need to look at how they arrived at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you, Mheshimiwa?
Thank you, Sophie. I think we have to remain focused on and understand the political environment we are operating in all the time, so that we can keep improving on whatever areas that we need to improve on. As in the popularity of TNA, I think it's challengeable, yes. But I think as a party, as a movement that has roots and strength in all parts of the country, I think we will need to re-energize those strengths and be able to be actively involved in the day-to-day matters that are going on. And then lastly, I think Kenyans are now looking upon how ODM is going to conduct its internal elections. And it is through the process that we are going to undertake and the kind of leadership in the party that is going to emerge that will inform the country that this is a party that can be able to attract more membership of people who have been waiting and seeing to see how it goes. If they see that it's going in the right direction, then we will have several of them trooping.
Okay, I must ask this question. Our time is up. My director tells me we must wind up, but very important question, because the biggest challenge with political parties in the country is that they've only been seen to be vehicles to elections. You know, people are part of ODM, I'm in court, we win the election. After that, you know, some quiet, then again, you know, some action and activity towards the election. But looking and borrowing from other countries, we've seen very strong political parties, ANC in South Africa, in Tanzania also, very strong parties there. The question for ODM is, what are you doing to ensure you're not ranked in those that are just seen to come about to win elections, but that you're a party that there's more than winning? There's ideology, there's real, I'm talking about policy and the things that you promise to do and what you stand for, that is clear, that when you say ODM, everybody knows what ODM is about, what they stand for and their track record. Right now, in terms of track record, there's not much perhaps many can say, but what do you plan to do to ensure that ODM stands out?
In my view, as I said, first of all, we have reached a point whereby we have to institutionalize our political parties. And in my view, this is what we are going to achieve with these elections. We want men and women who are going to be given that responsibility to go back into the grassroots and take the party back to the owners by coming up with structures within the grassroots areas that are going to be owned by the citizenry itself. And in so doing, we'll build institutions. Like we have said, we don't need strong men. We need strong institutions in Africa. And this is what we are going to be propagating. That from today henceforth, I myself, I will be very sad Kenyan, and I would think we would have worked a lot in vain if today I saw people coming up that we want a Luya party, we want a Coast party, we want a Kalenjin party, or we want marginalized party. That is not the multi-party that we fought for.
Right.
We fought for a democratization process that is going to encompass all Kenyans. And we can only do that now if we start transforming our parties into institutions that are there to last the test of time. And you'll see this evolving. Like even the court ruling yesterday was that political parties that meet certain thresholds should be funded. That is already, to me, a very positive indicator that we must go in that direction so that we collapse these parties into 2 or 3 parties, because you must compete on the basis of ideology.
Thank you.
As we are social democrats, and our ideology is social democracy, which is good life, maisha bora for all Kenyans. That is the main thing that we are trying to do.
All right, we must bring this to a close. Mheshimiwa, finally.
Does ODM influence policy? I can say yes, and in a very big way. You remember very well when we were members of the coalition with the outgoing regime of Kibaki, and now this current one. There are 3 key programs that were part of ODM's election manifesto that are being implemented right now, even by Jubilee. One we began was the infrastructure program, which is aggressively being implemented by Jubilee now. Second is a social welfare program, social security program, which the president was even launched yesterday. And that was, if you look at all the party manifestos that were in election, it was only appearing in the ODM
so in terms of making ODM manifesto. A party to contend with, Governor, what will you do? That
idea that has been adopted across the board, and I think we should give credit to where it's come from. That idea is pushing for the new constitution, and particularly for devolution. The idea of devolution began with ODM.
Okay.
And the 47 counties can actually say that they are in existence because of the push, because there were 2 things that were negotiated in Naivasha. It was about the presidential system and the devolution. ODM members, current members, were so instrumental in ensuring that the devolution of resources and power to regions happens.
All right, we must end there. Josphat Nanok, Governor Turkana, and Paul Otuoma, MP, Funyula constituency. Thank you, so much both for being part of our show this morning, talking matters, elections, and the ODM movement, the Orange Democratic Movement, I beg your pardon, and of course what's happening in Turkana. And we hope that will be resolved for the sake, of course, of the residents there. But we appreciate you being part of the show.